All right, so I am here to talk, I'm going to take the page out of ABHMS book and just hold it. Here to talk to you about First Baptist Church of Pottstown. Yes, we have in our midst a member of this church. First Baptist Church of Pottstown, if you're new to the Philadelphia area, Pottstown is a local church. They have an interesting story because they recently, the pastor likes to say, we joyfully sold our building. They have invested in our common investment fund. Yeah, significantly, right? And they are experimenting with sharing space with other congregations. So I will get into that a little bit more. Their most recent grant was given in 2023 in the amount of $5,000. They titled it Deeper Inclusion for Wider Diversity. And so they've been a grant partner since 2021. We have a much longer relationship with them, in part because we have staff members. Laura Alden has been a member of the church. Rachel Lawrence and her family, including her mother, are members there. Am I missing anybody else? So those are the staff folks, right?
Some former staff members have also committed the Cushmans.
David and Rhonda Cushman, okay. So all other American Baptist family members. They are deeply connected to American Baptist life. Their pastor, Marcia Bailey, I have a slide featuring her in a moment, is also a Judson Press author. So they received another grant in 2021 on a similar theme, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And so over the last 5 years, they've received a total of $10,000. I thought you might enjoy hearing from them in their own words, however. Hopefully this works. Marianne, is there audio? Not that we can hear. I will take it back. Did I forget to share my copy? I did silence my laptop, but I think I have to. Stop. All right, let me take two. Did I mention I'm the director of the Center for Continuous Learning?
Continue.
All right. Slideshow. There should be music.
My father was a pastor, and I have heard a lot of sermons in my life. And so I was always looking for a place where I would hear something I had not heard.
The style of worship we like very much, and the music is excellent.
I really enjoy people at First Baptist Church. We want to be allies of people in the community that want to work for justice.
Everyone who God has made and all who seek to know God.
All right. So, yes, First Baptist Church of Pottstown. They created that video using their 2021 grant. So that was another reason why I wanted to make sure you got a chance to see it. So when they submitted for a second grant in 2023, this was part of their proposal, that building on our previous achievements using an ABHMS grant, we seek to widen the breadth of our inclusion as we foster interfaith relationships and deepen our experience of inclusion as we confront the differences in our race, expressions of faith, understanding of the fullness of humanity in God's image, and learn to love and care for one another. Their original plan, after they had just sold their church building and invested in the Common Investment Fund, and they were going to create an LGBTQ center on site because they were sharing space in a former Jewish synagogue where a Jewish congregation continued to meet, but which was now owned by an African-American congregation, not American Baptist to my knowledge. And so they were really excited about the interfaith and intercultural potential for serving the Pottstown community. Their experiment ultimately did not work out. Largely around their commitment to inclusion and wanting to reach the LGBTQ community in Pottstown. So they did get started with their online book group. They've done online community forums. They improved some hybrid tech enhancements. They meet both online and in person. But they weren't able to achieve all of their goals as planned. That did not stop this congregation from continuing in their service and their commitment to ministry. So they've had this dynamic online learning community where they allow people can be reimbursed for the books they buy, and then those books go into the community little libraries that are around the community of Pottstown, so that they pay it forward to other members of the community who want to share in these book studies. They always choose authors of color. They're a predominantly white congregation. And they try to pick topics related to social justice. So one of the newest books that they're studying right now is on the topic of neurodiversity and including those on the autism spectrum and other aspects of intellectual diversity. On their website, you will find this box that says, "We are happy to reimburse you for the cost of your book if you participate in our group. We do this with resources awarded by a grant to further the conversation of race, equity, and inclusion supported by the American Baptist Home Mission Society." They give us credit for our collaboration in this work. They have reimagined both the original grant and their new one. They couldn't start the LGBTQ center on site at the church where they were sharing space, but they became co-founders with some other organizations of Pottstown's first Pride Fest. So they found another way to reach out to the LGBT community. They have renewed in their new space, they've just been invited to move into the sanctuary of United Methodist Church. Two United Methodist churches in Pottstown merged. They started a community garden that has been instrumental in transforming the life of a trans member of their church, a teenager who was really struggling and knew not a thing about gardening, but as you can see is now working a rototiller. And this space is donated by a member of the church because they don't have land of their own that they could use. They also had someone donate that hydroponic garden, which they have growing fresh lettuce, which they immediately donate to the food bank, which operates in the lower level of the United Methodist Church where they're worshiping. And they're using their own ministry to connect in really dynamic ways with the other community organizations that are based in that same building. And unlike their first hosts, this United Methodist Church said, yes, understood, because Marcia was very clear and said, I just want to be totally transparent. This is what we want to do if we come to you. And they said, yes, that's why we want you to come to us. And so there's strong alignment. They're continuing the book study group. They're also negotiating to rearrange the pews. You know how church people can be about their pews, right? So they're rearranging the pews. They have, and they're redirecting some of the grant money to pay for these ramps to make their chancel area accessible to everyone. So Marcia was just thrilled when I sat down with her. She was almost embarrassed to say, look, we had such big plans for this money. And we're protecting it. They were guarding it in their budget because they didn't want to spend it inappropriately. I said, well, but it sounds to me like you're doing the work. You should be using the money to do the work. And she just felt so liberated and grateful all over again to us because we understand and affirm the need to pivot in ministry to respond to the crises that we encounter. So this is Marcia. Like I said, Judson Press author. She wrote the book Transformed by Pastoral Transition, a guide for congregations. Before she came to First Baptist Pottstown, she was doing a lot of intentional interim ministry and pulpit supply. And I had been a beneficiary of that ministry with her in my own local church, and so reached out to her about doing a book on her experience and the model that she recommends. So highly recommend that resource, and know that they continue to be so connected. These are not direct quotes from Marcia. I gleaned these from my conversation from her. She is a part-time pastor of a small congregation, and so prayers for her strength and wisdom as she tries to lead in that space. She's praying for the empowerment of the remnant that remains there. The challenges that they've had around space have cost them members. Because of course not everyone agrees with how you manage the transition, right? But those who remain, there's some healing that needs to take place. They've been wounded in the process of trying to do what is right and good for God's people. And through it all, they're desiring to have this lasting impact in the community. So really proud and impressed by First Baptist Pottstown for the ways that they've been resilient in the face of a lot of challenges and really creative in meeting the needs. One of the reasons they're moving the pews is so they can create space for youth, intergenerational youth. Many of their youth are on the autism spectrum. And so they want to create spaces that are more friendly in sensory ways for everyone. They're furnishing it with living room furniture, so that, including recliners, so that people with circulation issues or hip replacements can be comfortable. I mean, I'm still fairly healthy and mobile, and I find church pews uncomfortable. So these are creative ways that they're trying to implement this vision for deeper inclusion, for wider diversity, despite the fact that their well-made plans have often been frustrated in various ways. Questions that you may have about First Baptist Pottstown?